This video will cover the basic assembly of the parts in Pololu item number 3670 for the TI-RSLK. We will also cover installing the TI launchpad on the robot. Begin by identifying the components included with Pololu item number 3670. One Romi chassis baseplate with the TI-RSLK chassis board already screwed on and the battery contacts installed. One right and one left bumper switch assembly along with 4 nuts and 7/16 inch long screws. One 8-channel QTRX reflectance sensor array. 2 Romi chassis motor clips. 2 gear motors with encoders. 2 Pololu wheels and tires. 1 Romi ball caster kit. 1 breadboard along with standoffs, nuts, and screws. You will need a Phillips head screwdriver to assemble the kit. Even though it's likely your chassis board and battery contacts are already installed on your Romi baseplate, we will still go over how to install these parts in this video just in case you need to replace them at some point. Begin by removing the battery cover from the Romi chassis baseplate. Get your chassis board and note the battery contacts on the underside of the board. These contacts need to pass through these openings on the Romi chassis. Place the chassis board in its approximate position on the chassis, hold the board in place with one hand, compress the spring contacts and gently maneuver them through the openings in the chassis until you can press them all the way through. Next, secure the chassis board with hardware using these mounting holes. Place a nut in one of the recesses and then hold it in place with your finger. Insert a 3/16 inch long screw into the corresponding mounting hole in the board and tighten. Repeat for the other 3 mounting holes. Insert the battery contacts into these slots in the battery compartment. Next, install the bumper switches. Note the 1x4 header located on the underside of the chassis board here. Insert the pins on the bumper switch into this header, making sure all 4 pins go in. Then secure the bumper switch to the chassis using the included hardware in these 2 mounting holes. Repeat the whole process for the other bumper switch. The motor clips are identical, so either clip can install on either side of the base plate. Make sure you push the clip all the way into the base plate. You might hear it click before it's all the way in, but notice how the retention tab has not yet seated on top of the battery compartment. So keep pushing until the bottom of the clip is flush here and the retention tab has popped over the battery compartment like it has here. Repeat for the other clip. Like the motor clips, the motors are also identical and can be installed on either side of the chassis. When installed correctly, the encoder pins from the motors should insert into these headers on the chassis board. It can be easy to put the motor in slightly crooked, so before pushing all the way down, make sure the retaining tabs on the outside of the clip are containing the motor. Then push down on the motor, making sure the header on the encoder inserts into the header on the chassis board. Repeat for the other motor. Stretch the tires onto the wheels. Now you can install the wheels. Line up the D shape in the wheel hub with the D on the motor shaft. It will probably be difficult to press the wheel all the way on with your hand, so once it's on like this, put the chassis on its side and press the chassis down against the table to insert the wheel fully onto the motor shaft. Repeat for the other wheel. Next, install the ball caster. The TI-RSLK comes with one ball caster that's intended for the rear of the robot. First, place the rollers into the cutouts for them. Then place the plastic ball on top of the rollers. Then push the ball caster retention clip over the ball and into the chassis so the 3 legs snap into their respective holes. If you separately purchased a second ball caster for the front of your robot, go ahead and install that now. Next, install the 8-channel QTRX sensor array into the header pins near the battery compartment, being careful to line up the headers so you aren't off by a pin. That covers the basic assembly of the TI-RSLK. You should now be ready to connect a TI launchpad to your robot. TI launchpads that are compatible with the TI-RSLK should have header pins that are installed here, 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 and here. When you receive your launchpad, you might have to solder some of these headers in yourself. The 5-volt shorting block should not be installed. If it is, you should remove it. Not doing so could break the chassis board. You might want to cut one of the header pins off so you don't accidentally install a shorting block here. Connect the launchpad to the chassis board by lining up the pins on the sides of the launchpad with the corresponding pins on the chassis board. Then press on the sides of the launchpad, making sure the boards press together evenly. Pushing too much on one side could cause the male header pins on the chassis board to get pushed or pulled out of alignment. Now your TI-RSLK is assembled and ready to use. If you want to install your breadboard, you can use the included hardware to mount the breadboard to the rear of the chassis. Use one set of standoffs to mount the breadboard like this, or stack your standoffs to mount the breadboard higher. The higher mounting position makes it so you can remove the TI launchpad without uninstalling the breadboard. Thanks for watching this video. We hope you have a great time learning about robotics with your Pololu parts and the TI-RSLK.